2 of Your Questions, My Answers, episode 26. Had a little bit of a problem pronouncing the show name, and it's the first time around. I'm joined by Brian Hewitt of Brian's Random Thoughts, as well as Sylvia Review, and Chris Darling, aka CD from CigarLive.com. And, well, guys, what do you got lit up there, Brian?
I am, well, I gotta admit it, I'm an Argonese whore right now. I am smoking the Chairman Double Wrap, one that's become a favorite of mine, and I'm drinking a Old Scratch Amber Lager from Flying Dog Brewery out of, I believe they're out of Fort Collins, Colorado. That's probably more information than anybody really needs, but how about you, CD?
Well, Brian and Walt, I'm smoking Edge Sumatra Toro. It's a really good smoke. I've had a few of. And pairing that with an Eye of the Hawk Select Ale. Good stuff.
Well, I'm drinking coffee. I've got a Black Dog coffee. It's the Salvador blend. And I'm also smoking a Rocky Patel Edge Sumatra. And actually, this is my very first one. And well, we're off to a great start so far. Thanks again, Ace, for the variety of cigars that you sent me. But well, before we kick things off and get moving on this episode, as Jerry would say, the standard disclaimer is in full effect here, and that is that we reserve the right to be wrong. We are not professionals, and if you come across something that just sounds a little off or is just flat out wrong, please feel free to contact us, and we'll get it all straightened up, in the following episode. So, with that said, segment 1 is sponsored by Dogwatch Cigar Radio. With Bob and Dale, you're going to find thoughtful conversation, considered opinion, and a touch of insanity. Which brings us right along to question 1 from Andrew via email. And, well, Chris, why don't you get the ball rolling here with question number 1.
Sure thing, Walt. All right, question 1 from Andrew via email. He says, "Hey, Walt, I love the site, and I love the work that you guys put into it. I'm an up-and-coming aficionado, and with your sales help, I would like to be able to spread the great word of cigar everywhere. Since I'm just starting, and I don't have a cigar shop that sells humidors, I'd like to know if you'd have a recommendation as to a good brand 75 to 100 count humidor. Thanks for your time, and love of cigars."
Well, first I've got a question. This might be a really stupid question, but have any of you guys ever heard of specific brand humidors? I mean, I've heard of like Cuban Crafters, but aside from, say, Cuban Crafters, are there any real humidor brands out there, or are they just kind of a mix and match kind of thing?
Well, I know that like an idiot, I didn't know anything when I bought my first humidor, and what I went for, and I get it's not a terrible thing, but I'd spent too much, but a Diamond Crown, that's the humidor I first bought. It's a beautiful thing. It's wonderful. It's still a favorite of mine, but oh my God, the thing is, no, you don't want to. I don't think you want to spend that much unless money is no object. And if it's no object, send it to me. I mean, it's an object to me. What do you think, Chris?
There's 2 other that came to mind, and the first was Savoy or Savoy, depending on how you pronounce it. Again, it's one of those, more of an expensive piece of furniture, really, than just your average everyday 75 to 100 count humidor. They make a ton of them, very similar quality, I think, to Diamond Crown. And well, the other one I guess would be CAO. I know that before they even got into cigars, they made pipes and humidors, and those are the only 2 real brand names that I thought of. I had totally spaced Diamond Crown actually. So in terms of like buying one, the place that I've gone to before had been Tampa Humidor. So I don't even know if that's a brand really, other than just a retailer or a reseller. But other than that, I mean, those are the names that come to mind.
You know, just when you happen to mention Savoy, I got the flashing image in my head of a couple of their humidors at one of the cigar shops I used to go to. I hadn't even thought of that. You know, Carlson Cigars has those little smaller humidors. I think they're about 30 counts with, you know, their little nameplate on it. So I don't know whether they're actually theirs or they're just branding someone else's humidor and reselling it. But all of the humidors I've purchased, which is very, very few, I've either bought on eBay or ordered from places such as JR Cigars. All of them are small units, nothing bigger than a 30 count. So I really can't give you a brand name recommendation, Andrew. But what I would do is check out, you know, just as Chris had mentioned, TampaHumidor.com. I've heard good things about cheap humidors and discounthumidors.com. And you can also go to Old Faithful and hit up Mark Neff from cigarme.com. He's got a pretty decent selection of humidors. And, you know, he can get you in that 75 to 100 count range for under $100. I remember seeing one in particular. There are some humidors that get up over $100, you know, $200, $300, you know, depending on how extravagant you want to go. But you know, without a doubt, Mark's going to give you extraordinary service, and hit him up with an email, ask him his opinion, and since everything he sells is tested first, you know, I'm sure he'll be able to give you an honest opinion about, you know, what he thinks about a particular humidor. I really don't think he would be the type of person that would try to talk you into a bigger unit. You know, if you tell him, look, I want this size humidor, I've got so much money to spend, I think that he won't hesitate to stay within that margin and give you a recommendation based on, you know, his own experience.
Yeah, you took the one I was going to put out there, cheap humidors. I've kind of somewhat mastered the art there for a while of buying inexpensive humidors for my growing collection, and I think cheap humidors is a good place to go. I'm partial, and again, I'm all about getting the best value for money, so I hit their scratch and dent section, and you can get, you know, things with like a minor scratch in them for, you know, a good 25% off. So you get some great stuff there. I'm using at least a couple that I picked up there, and they've been fine. Of course, yeah, Mark Neff, he's over at Cigar, but he's got some. Another place you can look, I mean, if you don't really care about the brand, or even if you do, sometimes you can find branded stuff, is just go to Cigar Bid, you know, check out the auction site. They always have, you know, they always have humidors up there, you know. And they're going to have stuff in the 75 to 100 count range, and they're going to have stuff smaller. They're going to have sell big cabinets too. So, you know, that's another place to check out. Do you have something else you wanted to add to that, Chris?
Yeah, I'd say basically the one thing, you know, if you're going to be shopping around, you know, I'm as thrifty as the next person when it comes to cigar humidors and stuff. I just make sure that no matter where you go, that you get a humidor that is lined with Spanish cedar. There's been a lot of humidors that go around, like if you're looking on, say, eBay or whatever, and you'll see the seller saying, oh, it's a great humidor and it's 50% less than what you've seen around. Most of the time, those aren't lined with Spanish cedar. And if you're going to age cigars for any period of time, I think it's a good idea to get one that has Spanish cedar lining in it. You know, it doesn't have to be completely built out of it necessarily. But you'd want to have that as the interior portion. I mean, you guys came up with some really good names right there. I had only one other place I remember thinking of, and that was Holtz. I don't know if you said that, Walt. But I know Holtz has a good selection of humidors as well, and they have a scratch and dent. I think a lot of the humidor companies, or sellers, retailers, whatever you want to call them, have a scratch and dent, and you can get a really good deal on one that just has a little small ding in it. Especially if you're just starting out, it may be a good way to go.
Yeah, one important thing to remember about those scratch and dents is a lot of times it's not like a big massive dent in the side or this big obnoxious scratch. Most of the times it's just a big enough blemish that they can't sell it, you know, as new. So, you know, in order to move inventory, they're knocking a couple of bucks off or a couple percent off, and they're selling them that way. And, I've talked to a lot of people that have gotten humidors and lots of other things, you know, those wine refrigerators on scratch and dent, you know, home appliances, and, you know, no one's really been upset with the overall product in the end. You know, the imperfection is small enough that it's really not a nuisance. Now, if you were buying a big, nice display humidor to kind of sit as a centerpiece, you know, on your coffee table, you know, for everyone all of your visitors to look at, you know, then maybe you want to, you know, avoid the scratch and dent section. But if you're just looking for good value and something that's just going to be kind of tucked away in the man room, then you know, I don't think you can go wrong with scratch and dent. So Andrew, I hope that we were able to offer you some good advice on your humidor purchase. And that brings us to question number 2 from Kyle. And this is a 2-part question. And I wanted to read this because I responded partially to it. And question 2 comes from Kyle via email. And this is the first email I got from Kyle. And he says, "Hey guys, great site. I love the videos. Anyway, I have a question about my humidor. My wife just bought me a Don Salvador display humidor as a present. After 6 months, it's been hard keeping it regulated around 70%. I got it in June and seasoned it, and it started to get it started, but it's a constant battle to keep the humidity. It's usually 40 to 58%. I'm located in Kansas. I'm currently using a 50-50 mix in a green fluorofoam stock humidifier and a round bead type. I usually keep 40 to 60 cigars inside the 100-plus count humidor. It is a display humidor, so there are 3 small glass windows. Could the windows be a problem, or do I need more humidification? My humidifiers are rated at 100 cigars. Again, thanks for the good information coming from your site, and I look forward to your reply." At this point, I emailed Kyle, and I asked him for a little more specifics, such as if he's getting, you know, relative humidity fluctuations from season to season. Since he said it was over a 6-month period of time, I was interested to know if the fluctuations were more or less than they were, say, 3 to 4 months ago when either it wasn't so cold or it wasn't so hot. And I also asked him about the temperature. Is it, you know, regulated with just a standard digital thermostat in his home? So, you know, is he keeping constant temperature and whatnot? And the second email I received says that they're usually higher by about 5 to 10%. This is as of now, rather than, you know, 6 months ago. And he says, as for my humidor temperature, I see that it stays at around 64 to 71 degrees, like the house, most of the time. It fluctuates a bit from time to time, but I see a constant pattern. I have calibrated my digital hydrometer, and it is actually off by about 6% on the humidity side and a couple off temperature-wise. I am beginning to think that I need to reseason my humidor after thinking about a few things. And those are, I noticed that the absorption rate of the Spanish cedar is like a sponge. I don't think I used enough water for the first seasoning. Maybe I'm keeping it in the wrong place. For instance, the desktop in a closed room, 1 window, 1 ceiling vent. Thanks again, and I'll be sure to check out YQMA in the following weeks. So that was a bit of information to take in. So anyone got anything off the top of their head?
I'll jump in. I'd like to respond to this in book form. I'm kidding. This is a long one, but what I'm thinking when I looked through this, I read through this earlier, and I was like, wow, I'm not sure I understand the full thing. But now that you let us know that it's actually communication, I'm thinking that possibly when he's talking about the first seasoning, what he's done is maybe he wiped down the inside or something, or he filled up his humidification unit, let it sit in there, and maybe he went for more of a kind of a one-time deal thing as opposed to actually going through the process and verifying that the humidor actually got up and stayed at the appropriate 65 or 70 or whatever he's going for. So I'm thinking that maybe he never fully seasoned it, or if he did, it's been allowed to run a little too dry for too long, and it's going to require a second seasoning. That's kind of what I'm thinking. I'm not a big fan of the fluorofoam stuff, just because it's like it's kind of like a paint bucket of water. It dumps all of its humidity out really fast, and then it dries out. That's been my experience with those things, and I would really encourage the guy to consider getting the puck or getting a bunch of beads and putting them in a bowl in there. I don't know. Actually, I'm not sure if I addressed all the points, but that's kind of what I was thinking when I was when you were reading through that. That seems like it's a seasoning issue and maybe a reliable humidification issue. What do you think, Chris?
Well, that actually came to mind first. The other thing that I was thinking of is it sounds to me, just in thinking about it, that he probably doesn't have a good seal on the humidor. If he's having to keep the floral foam in there and that's depleting and he's still not getting high enough humidity levels and the temperature is relatively constant, it seems to me as if there's a pretty good air exchange. In other words, leading out of the humidor and taking the humidity with it. So with, in thinking of a humidor that has glass panes in it, you may want to think about looking to see if there's a good seal wherever those are seated. I've done before with the glass top humidor that I had, I actually sealed it with silicone really carefully around the edges where the glass met the wood, just to be sure that too much air is not going through there. It depends. I don't know what his humidor looks like. The seal could be around there. Also could be the seal on the actual top itself. I don't know what it really looks like. I haven't seen that particular brand before. But I would check to make sure that there's not a huge gap. And one of the tests you can do is you can put a piece of paper along one of the sides of the humidor and close the humidor on it. If it's a nice tight seal, it's going to be difficult to close the humidor. Now, you don't want to force it, but if you're able to kind of tug and pull on that piece of paper while it's in there, that's a good idea that there's too much air going in and out of your humidor. And you may want to think about either putting in some thin shims of Spanish cedar, or perhaps using something else to seal it with. And again, I've made a bead along the bottom and top of my humidors before if I felt that there was too much air coming out. Just a very, 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 very thin one, and that sort of held things at a normal level. And that's a little experimentation, and I've done it before. I wasn't afraid to give it a shot. You may or may not want to try that, but those are the things that popped into my head right off the bat.
Well, I actually didn't realize something until you guys were responding, and well, I'll get to that on the second part of my answer. First and foremost, I think that Chris is onto something about your seal is not very tight. It seems like you're getting a little bit of air exchange, and that's why your humidor is drying out. You also mentioned that you're keeping 40 to 60 cigars in a 100 count humidor, which is basically you're running 40 to 60% empty. And in a humidor of that size, I would like to see, if it were me, I'd like to have around 75 to 80 cigars in it, just so that you have more of a mass to hold the humidity. Think of the cigars as a big buffer in there. They're all going to absorb humidity, and they're going to hold it, and they're going to exchange it with one another. So the more cigars you have in there, the more actual humidity is inside the box, and will deplete when you open the lid. Just think of it as, maybe you got 5 cigars in the bottom of this massive box. Every time you open the lid, you're going to get a lot of air exchange, and the chances of drying out those cigars are much greater than if you had a mass or a brick of, maybe 25, 30 cigars in the same humidor. So I think that may be part of the problem. You mentioned that you seasoned it the first time, and you're having problems keeping it up. Oh, okay, that sounded odd. But anyway, Brian's chuckle is what did it. But anyway, you said that the Spanish cedar is absorbing a lot of water. So again, the Spanish cedar is probably dry due to too few cigars inside. maybe take the cigars out, bump up the humidity to say 80%, leave it that way for a couple of days, and then transfer your cigars back in. But one of the key points that I saw was in your description of your room. Desktop in a closed room, one window, one ceiling vent, which tells me that you have forced hot air. And forced hot air is very, very dry. Now, for example, in my house, I have hot water heat in radiators. I keep a hygrometer, one of those dual units from Walmart, just kind of laying around the house because I like to get an idea what my house's humidity is. And I'm running 50% right about now. My father, or my parents, who live maybe 15 miles from here, have forced hot air. And my father was telling me the other day that he's having problems with his humidors. He checked the house humidity, and he was down to, say, 28% because of the forced hot air. So he's running a humidifier in the house, which is a great idea anyway. You may want to consider that to boost the humidity in the house. You won't get so much transfer being pulled out of the humidor that way. So, that would be a big plus to get the humidity in the house up. First off, if you have sinus problems, that'll be less of a problem if you get a little more humidity, and it just makes the house overall more comfortable, in my opinion anyway. But I think that may be one of your problems now that it's wintertime. You got the heat running, it's drying out your house, which is in effect acting like a magnet and sucking everything right out of your humidor. But that's really I have on the topic. Anyone that sparked a light bulb for anyone?
I just want to chime in and say, wow, that's pretty impressive, Walt. That was like an SAT question, Describe the room, what's wrong with the humidor? It's forced air, it's the vent. That's some good sleuth work right there. The other thing I was thinking about is and I'm generally very pro-bead, very pro-puck, but I'm thinking that in a scenario like that, and it comes to mind because I'm actually trying one out right now, is using maybe one of those Cigar Oasis things. And what those will do is those are very, considerably more proactive about managing the humidity in a humidor. So if it's not, if it really isn't the humidor is fine, but your environment just really, really dry. I mean, it may be something to try. It's gonna run you, a few bucks to pick one of those up, but at the same time, so far I've been using one in a larger humidor I have, and I've actually been pretty impressed with it. So it is a little expensive, but if you're having trouble, like I was having trouble with this humidor, it seems like it really helped out. So that was just something else to consider.
I'll just hop in. It sounds to me that I think you hit the nail on the head. I hadn't even thought of that. I mean, the minute you have any hot air, outside of your wood box, it's basically not really shielded by anything. It's going to suck the humidity right out of that wood, and in turn, the wood's going to suck the humidity out of anything that has any sort of dampness into it, i.e. your cigars and the humidification elements in the humidor. So, I mean, that makes perfect sense. I'd either, like you said, try humidifying the room a bit or move the humidor to a place that's less dry.
Well, Kyle, I hope we're helping you resolve your humidity issue, and good luck. Let us know how you make out. This moving right along, this brings us to question number 3, and this is via voicemail, and the caller didn't happen to leave his name, so unknown person leaving a voicemail. Take a listen.
Hey, Walt, and the rest of the Stoken crew. This question goes out to all of you guys. If given the chance to pick a blender to create your own private label cigar, what would your cigar be made of, consisting of wrapper, binder, filler, length, and ring gauge of your guys' choices? What would be your perfect cigar to your taste profile? All right, guys, thanks a lot, and I can be reached at, see you later.
All right, well, thanks for the question, Mr. X. Anyway, so if I was, actually, it's funny you bring this up because I was in a situation where I did have a manufacturer blend me a cigar to my specifications. When I was down in the Dominican Republic recently, Gene Arganese, one of the things he had us do during the tour is come up with our own blend. And I'll tell you what I tried. And I tried something because the first thing I tried, he told me was almost, was very close to being his Maduro. So I mean, and I do love that Maduro. So I was initially blending something in mind that would be, very smooth and very much like smoking a candy bar. So I decided something else. So this is what I selected. I took all of this. The only thing I changed from that other blend was I changed what the wrappers were. And so the binder was Sumatra. The actual filler was, let's see here, I believe it was 50% Viso, 25 Seco, and 25 Ligero. And instead of having a Maduro wrapper on it like I was going to have, I decided I had to do something different, something interesting. And what I did is I went for 2 wrappers, but instead of doing a barber pole, what I did is I had him completely wrap the cigar, first with a Connecticut, and then I followed that up, not with the Maduro, because that would just be the barber pole I'm smoking. I put his Nicaraguan leaf on the outside. And yeah, it sounds interesting, and honestly, I brought it back with me, and I haven't smoked it yet, and he actually wants me to give him feedback, because he'd never tried it before. He hadn't done an entire two wrapper system like I picked out, so I'm pretty proud of myself. I mean, it may be a complete dog rocket, it's very likely, but it's going to be a cool dog rocket. It's the only one of its kind out there, so, and it's totally copyrighted and trademarked and everything, so don't try to steal my idea. No. What about you all? What do you think? What's your ideas on this?
Well, so when the Hewitt goes national, do we get an unlimited supply, or how's that work?
I'll see if I can hook you up with some. Maybe a few. We'll see. Maybe, I don't know. If it goes really well, maybe we're talking boxes here. I don't know.
Well, for me, I like sun-grown wrappers. I'm beginning to like them a little bit more as of late. So, I don't know, maybe a sun-grown Corojo wrapper, Nicaraguan binder, and Nicaraguan filler. And hopefully it'll come out medium to full, smooth finish, spicy undertones, and just that good old Nicaraguan tobacco flavor with a touch of Corojo on top, and I'd be a happy man. As far as the size goes, I love Lancero cigars, but sometimes I want something that's not quite as long and thin, and I like Rothschild every once in a while, a nice 50 by 4.5. And just because of my little pet peeve, I wouldn't allow the cigar to be made in anything larger than a 50 ring gauge. But that's just my take. And nothing longer than, 6 inches. So you're kind of locked in between a Rothschild and a Toro. But that would make me happy. What about you, Chris?
I did a little thought about it, and I think, I'm along the similar lines to you, Walt. I really I've been liking a lot of the Nicaraguan tobaccos I've been smoking recently. And Corojo, as a wrapper in general, I didn't used to like, but I'm finding now that it's, I don't know if I'm getting used to it so much as I'm starting to enjoy it more. And so I'd probably make close to a Nicaraguan Puro with a Corojo wrapper. Something that's probably a sun-grown type of Corojo. And now, I haven't seen sun-grown necessarily labeled on many Corojo wrappers, but I thought that might be, maybe a little bit of a thicker wrapper. I like the taste of it. It's definitely really flavorful. So something along those lines. I've been enjoying a lot of the smaller cigars recently. So if I had to choose a Vitola, it would probably be something like a Petite Corona or a Corona. Petite Corona up to a Robusto size is what I'd be thinking. I guess that's pretty much, I'd have to try out a few different ones, maybe spend some time down in the Dominican or in Nicaragua or something like that at a factory and sort of get used to blending cigars. But off the top of my head, that's what I'd come up with.
I forgot to mention the size of mine. I didn't really have much of a say in terms of the size. They basically grabbed the leaves and started rolling, and they all pretty much came out kind of like pyramids, I think. That's about the best I could say. But I've been kind of intrigued by some of those interesting Fuente cigars. So I'm thinking I'd have mine blended and shaped like a tuba. I think that's what I'd go for. A good like 108 ring gauge at the end, and a lot of curves round and round. Take about 8 hours to smoke.
Now, would they come in boxes, big, massive boxes, or are we talking coffins here, like Drew Estate's egg?
Well, I think this would have to come out in, coffins would be right. I think they would be like, you'd bury people and they'd come I don't know, trunks. They'd come out in trunks, I think.
Well, that was an interesting discussion. And, I hope we gave a little insight as to our opinions on cigars. I know Brian was a lot more precise with, his filler blends, but, hey, he's got an excuse. He was in Dominican Republic while we were all sitting at home. But in any case, question number 4 comes in from Sin via voicemail, so take a listen.
Hey guys, it's Sin. I'm back with another question for your upcoming segment of Your Questions, My Answers. Now, the other day, I was sitting down to a nice cigar with a couple friends of mine who are pretty new to the whole cigar scene. When I tried to explain to them the different flavors that cigars have and the type of wrapper that are associated with the flavor, they didn't quite seem to understand. Could you guys explain to us what different flavors come with various types of wrappers, since you guys are more experienced and have been smoking longer than us? Appreciate it. Thanks. Bye.
Okay, so, I've done a little bit of thinking about this question, Walt and Brian, and, I just, honestly, I don't know how you really convey to somebody else what the common flavors are of something unless they really try them. It's sort of like telling somebody, okay, what's the color orange look like? I really, honestly, I don't know, other than to actually, if you're going to spend some time with your buddy, give him a couple of cigars, maybe a couple of smaller cigars to start with if he's not really into it. But, you have to say, look, you got to try it to figure out what the taste really tastes like. I think people compare taste with cigars to other things because it's sort of like a common ground. Like somebody will say that has a lot of cocoa in it, or that has a lot of creaminess to it, or it's spicy. But unless you try it, you really can't tell. I mean, that's just me. Other people have said to me, oh, it tastes like, cinnamon spice, and it's got, 14-year-old aged Madagascar vanilla in there, and, I just don't get that. I mean, I understand that there are certain flavors and things that my palate can pick up, but everybody's different. So I'd say unless you really try a cigar, you're really not going to know. That's just me. Well,
I'd say that I agree with Chris to a certain extent. It's not an exact match in terms of cigar flavors to the things that people use to describe them. There's similarities, and it's very close, or it's reminiscent of, and it's kind of using the flavors is kind of a good way to give somebody kind of a preview of what the cigar is, what they're in for in the cigar. I happen to, not make my living, but kind of spend a lot of time finding flavors in a cigar, and sometimes some pretty wacky ones. So, in terms of just getting to the wrappers, some common wrappers, I would say in Maduro, you're likely to find cocoa or dark chocolate, sometimes coffee or espresso, some, pepper. A lot of times, let's see, another common one, Connecticut. It tends to be creamier, sometimes a little earthy, but usually creamier. I sometimes get kind of a vegetal flavor out of it, something that's kind of reminiscent of, it's kind of hard to describe, but I've gotten it quite a bit. In some ways, it almost reminds me of hops. from from beer. If you've ever tasted the hops, let's see what else. I don't know. Corojo can be, I tend to get it tends to be a little more spicy. I don't know. Let me throw this over to Walt. You fill in the blanks on the rest of them.
Oh, you didn't leave me the easy ones, that's for sure.
That was by design.
The ones I was looking at answering, but yeah, it's really difficult to sit down and explain to someone what the key flavors are in different types of wrappers, because, from cigar to cigar it can be different. You've got different filler, different binder, and all that's going to play a part on the overall taste of the cigar. So it's difficult to pick out, exactly what the wrapper tastes like, because you always get nuances of other things throughout the whole flavor profile. So that makes it hard to begin with. The best thing to do would be, just like both of you guys have mentioned, sit down with a cigar, make sure you're smoking the same cigar, and go at it one-on-one, Just say, I taste this, what are you getting out of it, and just kind of compare notes and derive where you're going from there. But, some of the more generic flavors, it's just really difficult. When I taste Corojo tobacco, to me, it just sends up a flag. It tastes like Corojo tobacco. There isn't a real particular key note in there. The same thing goes for Cameroon, but in a sense of like Cameroon, I think you get a little more spicy flavors, sort of leathery tones. With Corojo, you get sort of the same leathery tones, but it's more of a deeper flavor, a rich flavor. And, the list goes on and on. Maduros are different. You've got Connecticut broadleaf Maduro, you've got Brazilian Maduro. You've got different varietals of this leaf, and all of them are different. All of them are just a little bit different. So there's just a whole lot of mess going on there, and I think it'd be extremely difficult to come up with a list and say, okay, Cameroon, this is the key flavor, and go on and on and on. I think the best thing to do would be to sit down with them and just go over what you taste and what they taste in the cigar and try to come to a common ground. I know for me, it's not so much a flavor all the time. A lot of times it's an aroma. What does the aroma remind me of? And that's a big factor in what I taste in cigars is more along the line of what I smell rather than what I taste. But maybe I'm just wacky and I'm a little different. I don't know.
I kind of think you're right. I think one of the neat things about a lot of cigars that are being made, today is that they're not all bland. They're not all the same flavor. They're actually pretty complex. At least the ones that I'm smoking are, and a lot of people that I know in Cigar Live. That's one of the things about this hobby is that there's so many different cigars that have different taste profiles from start to finish. The wrapper, the binder, they all play a different role along with the fillers. So, one cigar that's a Corojo wrap cigar can be completely different than another that's a Corojo wrap, say, with Honduran, that's got a lot of Viso in it as opposed to a lot of Ligero. You really, to me, it's almost like I don't even reserve those judgments anymore in my head as to what this could taste like or whatever. I do it on a cigar-by-cigar basis. And if I find something that I like, I tend to smoke more of them just because I know I like that taste. So, it's one of those things, and I hate to sort of, talk to newer people who are just getting into cigars and say, well, this is going to taste like that, or this has that type of profile. I may give them a hint, but, you got to try it in order to really taste it. And people are so different with their palates that I don't know that there is something that you can say, hey, this tastes like that. That's just the way I think about it, at least.
That's a good point. And, and Walt was mentioning that, something else that's important. It's, these leaves, the same kind of tobacco is grown in different countries and different soils and different conditions. So, I happen to know that, Partagas Black does not taste like an Argonese Maduro. So, and they're both Maduros, but, they don't taste the same. So, I don't remember the specifics of both wrappers off the top of my head, but they're both Maduros. So it's the same thing with the misconceptions on like Honduran tobacco is always really hefty. It's really powerful. That's not always the case. Whereas some of the other some other tobaccos like even some of the Connecticut's are supposed to be light, or even if the cigars in Maduro is supposed to be, a hefty cigar. It's not necessarily the case. So there's a lot of interesting things are being done to basically, stick out and make their, to make a lot of cigars different. So what you might commonly associate with a wrapper may not be the case, because they may be doing something completely different and unusual, fertilizing in a weird way, growing in weird conditions, and you're just not going to get the same stuff. So, anything else to add to that, Walt? Or?
I think you pretty much summed that up. I mean, you've got a lot of different soils, a lot of different things going on in each country, and a prime example would be, go to your cigar shop, look for a Nicaraguan cigar, pick up the darkest, oiliest one, and there's a possibility that you're going to get a mild to medium cigar out of that, just because of what they're doing underneath the wrapper. And you might pick up something like a 601 Connecticut and think that it's going to be really mild and smooth because it's got that light, Connecticut wrapper on there, and you'd be surprised at how much spice and strength and just full flavors come out of that cigar because of what's going on. So one size fits all description for each type of wrapper. I think it's going to be on a case by case basis, and the best way to do that would just be to sit down one-on-one and work through a cigar with a newer smoker. And you'd be surprised. You'll probably learn something along the way. I'm sure he'll pick something out that you haven't noticed, and you'll get a couple of things that he hasn't noticed, and it'll be fun in the long run.
Welcome back. This next segment is sponsored by Cigar Mini, luxury cigar accessories and apparel. And if you use coupon code SR2008, you can get 5% off your next order. So you might as well make it a good order, buy a lot of stuff, and make that 5% really count. Okay, and the next question comes from Joel via voicemail.
Yeah, hi, Walt. This is Joel Scott from Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. I've always had a question I'd like to struggle with you guys to answer if you could. And the question is, how can we, living up here in the very much of the northern climate here, we often get stuck smoking in our cars. How can we hide the smoking in our cars from our wives? What I'm looking for is tips on, ways to clean up the smoke, to make it seem like you've never smoked a cigar in there. If you guys got any insight on that, I'd love to know. Again, this is Joel Scott from Beaver Dam, Wisconsin. My cell number is 210. Bye.
And we're back. You just heard Joel, and Joel wants to know how to hide the smoke smell in his car from passengers. So, that kind of caught me off guard. We had a little bit of a technical issue during the production break, and I forgot all about this question. But if you look through the website, stogie.com, and you click on Stogie Spotlight, you can page through there and take a look for an article by Mark Neff entitled Smoking in Your Car. Basically, Mark goes through how to detail your vehicle to eliminate the smoke smell, and use a product called Pure Air to try to eliminate all the stale smell that's trapped in your car. Aside from that, the only other recommendation that I have is one that seemed kind of crazy at the time. When we got this question come in, and it was someone talking about using coffee beans in their car, putting whole beans in a mesh bag and throwing them under the seat, or keeping them on his dashboard, and he'll shake them up, and you get this coffee aroma in the car. I thought that was pretty interesting. Well, I've been avoiding the Folgers Crystals coffee at work, and some mornings I grind up my own coffee and I'll take it into work with me. And well, I happened to forget about a Ziploc bag of it, and it fell out and was sitting on the seat of my car. And the following day I came out and I could smell coffee. It smelled great, and I guess the oily aromas of the coffee were just seeping right through this little Ziploc bag. And it did a really good job of masking the odor, and it smelled pretty good too. But anyone else got anything interesting to add? Maybe help Joel, keep the smoke smell from his wife?
Well, I was going to say that I've always found that throwing your used cheeseburger wrappers and fry cartons in the back seat, that does a great job of masking almost every kind of aroma, but give it enough time. Actually, I was really thinking about the same thing with the coffee beans that you brought up. That was basically one of the questions we got. I think it's a great idea. I'll say what I said back then. That I know that the little plug-in air fresheners, or what are they? Air ionizers, purifiers, whatever they are. Those don't work. That I can tell at all. So I think I wouldn't waste the money, but I've heard good things about the pure air, and I didn't realize that Mark had written that article, so I'm going to have to go check that out. But just keeping it vented, and I think that the coffee bean idea is a winner. Between that and pure air, or Febreze, or I don't know, whatever, dumping gasoline, lighting the car on fire, something will work, I guess. All right, I'm tapped. What do you think, Chris?
I mean, Mark's article, I think, is a pretty good one. I would defer to him. What I use in my car is Ozium, and usually I'll get either the new car smell Ozium or the original one, and that seems to work pretty well for me. When I smoke, I usually keep the windows open, even if it's cold, so I can vent most of the smoke out. But I guess for me, I mean, that's pretty much what I do.
Is there anything you guys would do differently, say, if you were going to your car to avoid smoking in the house, if your car was parked, so that you weren't moving and getting the airflow through the windows, or anything you would do differently in that case, or would you just try to avoid that altogether?
Yeah, I would avoid it altogether. I mean, if you're sitting there parked in your car, I think you're pretty much going to get a cloud of smoke in there. It's just going to intensify the odor, if you will. I'd get out of the car and smoke outside if that was the case.
I have gone out and smoked in my car from time to time if I got a small stick with me and I just need to get away, or I'm driving back from someplace and I still got some cigar to smoke. I just roll all the windows down, and I kind of let when the cigar is resting, I just let it sit out the window so the smoke is going outside to kind of minimize it, and I'll tend to try to blow the smoke out the window. But I mean, you're going to get it in the car anyway, so it's. The solution to avoiding, cigar smoke smell in your car is to not smoke in your car, I think. I mean, otherwise you're going to get some, I think. But, you use your little tree air fresheners, Febreze, and everything else we brought up. And I think people may not notice it. I think that it's safe to say every woman in the world will notice it, because they can notice anything under the sun. I have one dirty sweat sock in the corner of my house somewhere. A woman walks in, she's like, "Oh my God, it smells like Caloctra in here." I'm like, okay, I got one sock in my bedroom. I'm sorry, anyway, that's all I got.
Yeah, the reason I asked about the parked vehicle is every once in a while I'll plan on going somewhere and I'll take a cigar with me, and I might have some stuff that I have to load in the car for whatever reason. I'll get it loaded in. I won't have my cigar lit. I'll get in the car, clip and light the cigar, and before I start the car and get moving. And right then is when the smoke is the absolute worst. I mean, even if you have the driver's side door open, you're lighting the cigar, and you're just getting ready to put the key in the ignition, start the car and roll down the window, it gets really thick in there. So I think, at the very least, if you're going to be using your car as like a mobile smoke room, open every window, jack the heat up one high, and handle it that way. Otherwise, I think you're really going to overwhelm your car with all that smoke. But aside from that, give the coffee beans a try. Pure Air works great. I think it works a lot better than Febreze. Personally, I think Febreze does a good job, but it kind of masks the odor more than anything else. I think you get a real perfume kind of smell to it. And I did a comparison a while back using Pure Air and Febreze. And what I did was I took 2 cotton undershirts, I put them in gallon-sized Ziploc bags, and then as I smoked the cigar, I took one puff, I blew it in one bag, closed it up. I took another puff, blew it in the other bag, closed it up. And these shirts got pretty foul, really, really bad. And I did this for the course of maybe 2 weeks. And then I broke out the shirts, I put them on hangers, and I hung them on opposite sides of one room. I sprayed one down with Febreze, and went to the other side of the room and sprayed the other down with Pure Air. I waited a couple of minutes, and then I went and I started, the sniff test. And I kept doing that every couple of minutes. I didn't apply a second coat of Febreze or anything. I just, let the stuff do its job over a period of, I think, a half an hour. And in the end, the Pure Air was the clear winner. So I think if you're going to spray your car down with anything, give the Pure Air a try. Personally, I think the stuff reeks when you first spray it, but give it a minute and the smell just goes away, it disappears, and I think it does a great job.
That sounds like a Mythbusters episode. We need to start up a Cigar Mythbusters. Yeah, seriously.
All right. Well, Joel, I hope we help you out with your stale smoke problem in your vehicle. And this brings us right along to Jason Brown's question, which is number 6. And this comes in through a voicemail, so take a listen. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Jason Brown, and this is a question for the YQMA episode 26. And this week it's about cutters. I think it's finally time to upgrade from my $3 cheapy double-bladed guillotine. It's worked fine, but it's pretty dull now, so I'm looking at something a little better. Just wondering what you guys use and what works best for you, whether it be the Zycar, Palio, Punch, or whatever. Just some thoughts on those. At the very least, I'll go out and pick up a couple more cheapies just to get me through. But I'd like to get something of a little better quality sometime in the near future. Just wondering what your thoughts. Again, it's Jason Brown. Keep up the good work. Thanks. Bye.
All right, so we're talking about cutters. Well, in terms of what I use on a regular basis, I use this, what I term my flamboyantly red Zycar. And I got to say, in terms of what I'd recommend in terms of upgrading to a new cutter, I've used this guy a lot, and I've had the occasion to bum a Palio off of a lot of people, and so far I've been a lot more impressed with the cut of the Palio. Now, I have been told that I just have a Zycar and needed sharpening, and that's entirely possible. I have been meaning to send it in, but I got to say, between the two, I've been really impressed with the Palio, and not quite as impressed with any cut I've gotten off the Zycar. I still use it, but it's not bad. But when I was clipping my cigar tonight with it, in fact, I noticed it kind of pinched a lot, before it actually did any cutting. So that's my 2 cents. What do you think, Walt? You use a Palio too, don't you? Scissors or something like that?
Well, I started off using, I know I have it. It's car keys in my pocket. But I started off, after I started using these cheap cutters, I switched to a cigar punch and just threw it on my key ring. And for a long time, that's what I used. This particular one is a Vector, I believe. Yeah, it's a Vector. It's aluminum, and it does a pretty good job. But after a little while, I got tired of the plugs, and I stepped up to a Havana cutter, which is a cheap little plastic cutter that it's amazing for the price tag. I think it's about $3. and these things work great. I don't happen to have one on me, but from there I moved to a Palio, which I have always here at my desk, and I'm really happy with it. I think it works really well. I've been impressed with it since the day I got it. This is a great choice for a cutter. I think they're about $30, so you know it's a big step up. You know, 10 times the price of those little cutters you get at the cigar shop. But I really think that you're gonna be happy with the overall product. But I progressed from the Palio to my now can't do without Cigar. Well, what is this? It's the MTX multi-tool. And it's this little cutter, and the primary reason for this was because of its size. I can keep it in my pocket all the time. At that particular time, I was using a Zippo with a D+ insert and this, and carrying around in my pocket was not a problem at all. I mean, the size of this is just tiny. They fold out. It's got like a scratch awl in it, a screwdriver, a can opener, and a knife. So the accessories are great. But the scissors, they take a little getting used to. There's a little bit of a trick to them where you have to really force on the cigar and shear, take little bits off. But I love these things for opening up the cap and then shaping the cigar, to what I prefer. Lots of times you get little jagged edges around. With the scissors, it's real easy to just go back in there and pair up the cigar. And I just can't do without these things. I always have them with me, and I don't know. It's tough to go back to the Palio. It works great, but I can't do without these scissors. Once you get used to them, they are just the winner in my book. What about you, Chris?
Well, I have a Palio. I basically carry it with me all the time. I'd had a Cigar before. I'd had a couple of plug cutters like you were talking about. And it just seemed like for me the Palio just worked the best. It always cuts well. It cuts clean. I haven't had a problem with the blades deflecting at all, and I think that has to do with the design of it. For me, it's perfect. I don't have like any really big ring gauge cigars all the time, and some people have said that one of the criticisms of the Palio is that it's not very big, so you can't cut say a larger than a 60 ring gauge cigar. But then again, I don't smoke those anyway, so for me it's not a big deal. I like the fact also that if you ever have a problem with a Palio, you can walk into a store that sells them and hand it over to the guy and he'll hand you a new one. No questions asked. So I kind of like that, and for me the Palio is what does it. So that's my choice.
Well, you brought up an interesting point, I think, about when you're saying large cigars. I typically don't smoke huge ones myself, but every now and then, on a whim or just for an interesting cigar review, I'll pick up something like the Inmenso by Perdomo that's, 60 or 62 or something. I don't even remember now. Not a bad cigar, by the way. It's just freaking huge, and my jaw hurt after smoking it. But I found that I probably wouldn't have too much issue cutting it with this Cigar, but I typically don't carry the Cigar with me. I actually carry cheap ones, and I've actually gotten better cuts out of some of the cheap ones, I have to say. But what I'll do is you can definitely get it cut. I think the people who say you can't get a cigar cut with those may be taking a little too much off the cap, because I've actually gone around, like Walt was saying, with his scissors, where he'll trim off jagged edges. I'll go around with my Cigar and I'll open up the cap a little bit more if I need to. I'll go around in a circle. I've actually kind of groomed the end of it, so it's not something jagged that you're stuffing in your mouth and getting splinters or something like that from. So I don't know. That's something I've always thought was kind of a little bit of a mystery to me, that people have issues with the cutters doing that. But I don't know. Anyway, did you have anything else you want to add to that, Walt?
Yeah, I read that a lot, where people say that you can't cut these big ring gauge cigars with the Palio, and I've never ever had a problem cutting any cigar with a polio cutter. I mean, when I hear people say, well, I can't cut a 60 ring gauge cigar, I think of, them trying to do this with the polio. They're trying to completely insert the cigar into the cutter. And you're right, if that's the case, you're not going to be able to cut the cigar with the cutter. It just doesn't open that wide. Actually, I can't split this Rocky-Patel Edge Sumatra completely into the cutter. It stops just above the cap. So, and what is this, a 50, maybe a 52? And, it won't slide through. I couldn't effectively cut this cigar in half with this cutter. And that's not what I want to do. I take such a small amount off the end that I've never had a problem cutting, large cigars with this cutter. But, everyone's different. Everyone takes, more or less off. So, Brandon, if you like to really lock the end off the cigar, the polio may not be the cutter for you. But if you're more along the lines like me, where you're just kind of nicking the end, then, I don't think you'll ever have a problem with the polio cutter. Well, Jason, I hope we convinced you to maybe pick up a polio. The scissors work great too. And that brings us to question number 7 from Carlos. And this is a little different. Carlos actually submitted a video, so take a look at what Carlos has to say.
Hey Walt, how are you? This is Carlos from Union, New Jersey. And my question to you guys is, how do you think Cigars International went about their selling of tickets to Cigar Fest 2008 this year? For the people that are unaware of Cigar Fest, it's a HERF yearly that's put out by Cigars International. In the previous years, tickets have always gone on sale sometime end of January, February, to the general public, and the event is usually in May. This year, they decided to send an email to a number of people, allowing them early purchases of these tickets. What happened in this case was those tickets sold out before they went on sale to the general public. That really pissed off a lot of people, and I see a lot of talk about it over on Cigar Live, over on the forum that Cigar Bid runs, and I just want to know your take on it. What do you guys think about how they handle this? Just on a side note, I called up Cigars International to find out if they had any tickets. This was about 2 weeks ago. I called over there to find out if they had any tickets left for sale, and they said yes, but I'd have to go into the store to purchase these tickets. And just like 2 days ago, I found out that the tickets all sold out. So if anybody out there was looking forward to attending this, forget about it. It's sold out. And I think this year they had 2,000 tickets, all sold out in under like 2-3 weeks. So it's pretty insane. So I was just wondering, what do you guys think of that? And I'm smoking a CAO 10th anniversary Maduro. Very good cigar. Paid a little too much for this on my local, but hey, what are you gonna do? Alright guys, take it easy. It was nice doing this video, first one, hopefully not the last, and keep up the good work.
Alright, well, Carlos, about the Cigars International Cigar Fest, there was a good deal of discussion about this particular topic on the Cigar Live forum, and I happened to notice that, and I did notice that I was one of the people that was sent an early email before some people, and honestly, I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe because Cigar Bid, the devil's site, owns my soul. I don't know. I suspect that maybe it has something to do with some purchases, some crazy purchases I've made on there. In terms of what I think about it, it kind of seems to me that I can understand why maybe they would want to offer, a first chance to some of their better customers. I guess that kind of makes sense, but the fact that they sold out in under 3 weeks, and I think the beef business, most people didn't have any opportunity at all to go, who would have definitely paid to go. I think it's kind of bad that they didn't hold back enough tickets to, make it open so everybody could get into it. I think I understand what they were trying to do, and I think that they fell on their face when they tried doing it. I haven't ever been to the Cigar Fest. I'll go at some point, but, you know, I think that my big focus is trying to get into RTDA or IPCPR, as it's called, and, you know, it's kind of a, somebody tripped up, they made a mistake. That's what I think happened, basically. It's going to make them look bad, but, you know, hey, not everybody's going to be pleased with everything. And what do you think about this, Walt?
Well, I'm kind of kicking myself now. I didn't get that initial email, but I did catch something somewhere that said if you log into Cigars International's website and click on the My Account link, you would be able to purchase these Cigar Fest tickets. And at the time, I could have swore that the tickets were $100 for a 3-hour event, and those are the only ones I saw listed. It was you know, the $99.95 for 3 hours, but and at the time I thought that was crazy. I wasn't about to pay $100 for a 3-hour event. I'd pay the extra $15 and go for 5 hours. So I held off on purchasing the tickets, thinking that, okay, the pre-release was just for general admission tickets. If you wanted, you know, the upgraded tickets, you'd have to wait a little bit. So I waited a little bit, and within 3 weeks they were sold out. So I don't know if by the time I saw that they had sold out of all the upgraded tickets and the only thing left was general admission, or something else totally weird went on. But after I actually checked it today, and for one reason or another, it said 4 hours. It was 3 till 7. And had it been 4 hours when I looked at it the first time, you know, I could be mistaken, but I could have swore it was 3 hours, you know, 3 to 6 or something like that. And I just thought, you know, $100 for 3 hours, it's just not going to be worth it. You know, 4 hours might have justified it. I would have definitely gone $115 for 5 hours. And I'm kicking myself now for not getting tickets because it's so close. I mean, it's I don't know, maybe a 2.5-hour ride up 476. So I could have been up there and back without needing to rent a room or anything like that. It would have been great. It's just so close that there was no excuse not to go, and I didn't pull the trigger, and I should have. Now, hopefully, there'll be some tickets available at some point. You know, maybe someone can't use theirs, and I'll run across some that are for sale. But right now, it looks like I'm out of luck, and you know, it's going to stay that way. And you know, next year, I guess I'm going to have to jump all over it and go from there. But unfortunately, it doesn't look like I'm going to be making it this year unless I stumble into some tickets. But that probably is not going to happen because people that go to Cigar Fest usually absolutely love it and aren't willing to give up tickets. So, Chris, what about you?
Well, you know, I think it's obviously just made a mistake. You know, in one way, in the PR terms, you know, they should have done a better job explaining to people what exactly they were doing. If they're going to offer tickets to people who are better customers first, I think they probably should have told everybody about that and made it a little bit more plain. You know, how easy is that to do? I'm not sure. They could have done something a little bit more, say the header of their web page, whatever, explain the process, and I think maybe they're going to end up doing that for the next year's event. In the end, you know, it worked out that, you know, X amount of people bought tickets and they're going to the event and it's sold out. So, you know, it's hard to say, you know, did they do, you know, did it not sell out and, okay, all these people got left out, or was it unfair that a certain segment of their customer base got to go and the rest didn't? You know, again, you know, I just think they did a bad job of advertising how they were going to do the ticket process, and maybe they're going to learn from it, you know, for the next year's event. For me, it didn't make really too much of a difference. I live quite a distance away, and I probably wouldn't have gotten tickets anyway. So it's kind of a, you know, a moot point for me. But, you know, did it mess up some people? Yeah, it did. And Carlos was obviously one of those people that felt badly about it. So, you know, maybe next year's a more organized fashion of getting those tickets out to people.
So, Walt, have you been to this Cigar Fest in the past? What do you think of it? It sounds like, from what you were saying, everybody seems to love it. I was tempted, but I mean, with travel and you know everything else, I thought it might just be a little excessive for me. But you know. maybe it's an amazing thing, but I keep thinking about what I heard. I heard some people talking about the what was it, the Big Smoke, where pretty much all it was standing in line to get smokes and shake hands with somebody, and while it was a lot of fun if you went with some people, if you didn't, and that's Big Smoke. I don't know if this compares or if it's a little bit more relaxed and more of a hangout type of atmosphere or what. But anyway, yeah. What do you?
No, I haven't. I wanted this year to be my first year going. I couldn't make it last year, and by the time I had learned about it the year before, it was, the tickets were sold out. So I haven't been there. I've talked to several people that have gone, and they always have an amazing time. And microbrew samples are there. I think they have spirit samples as well. Just for signing up, they hand you a 20-count humidor full of cigars. They give you tickets to go around and get even more cigars. So you end up walking out of there with a ton of cigars, samples, and it's just a good time from what I'm told. Now, I guess the whole thing about this whole ticket scenario is how it actually worked out. Now, the first time I heard this was from a guy at the local cigar shop who had been there the year before, and he was telling me that he got advance notice on the tickets, and that the way he understood it, it's because he was previously there. So I'm not sure what happened. So, Brian, if you've never been there and you've got advance notice, I'm sure that there was some dollar value. If you spent so much, you got advance tickets. And for everyone else that hadn't made a large purchase or didn't accumulate enough, they just had to wait. So, there's no real way of knowing absolutely sure of what happened. It's just, it's kind of unfortunate that, because I've read that a lot of people really wanted to go, and, they didn't even have the opportunity to buy the tickets from the way it's being explained. So, it's sad, but, from a business perspective, they sold out in 3 weeks. It was a success, so. Well, Carlos, not a whole lot of, discussion on the topic, but, I don't know. I feel your pain. I would have really liked to have gone too, but, doesn't look like, it's going to happen. But this brings us to question number 8, and this is an email question from Donkey Puncher. he has 3 questions for us. One being, how often do you guys rotate the cigars in your humidor? If there have been smoking bans in your cities, where have you done your smoking? And how often do you use a guillotine cut versus a notch cut versus a punch cut? And what criteria do you use for determining which cut to use? Or do you cut 100% of the time with one particular cutter? I really enjoy the videos, and that's all there is to it. So, Chris, why don't you get the ball rolling here?
All right. In terms of rotating cigars, I don't have one large humidor with boxes and singles sort of intermixed. I have a bunch of small humidors and some tupperdoors and stuff like that. So for me, it's probably every month or so I'll tend to look through and make sure that I've got a decent amount of rotation. I check it pretty much weekly. I'll check the humidifying elements to make sure they're fine, the beads that is. I'll check to make sure that my RH and temp are good. I can look through most of the tupperdoors. I'll have the hygrometers, facing out so I can look through and see. In terms of for rotating, for me, it's probably, like I say, about monthly. As far as smoking bans, as far as I know, in North Carolina, there really aren't any smoking bans like there are, I guess, in the Northeast. So that's something I haven't really had to deal with down here. Okay, guillotine cut versus the rest. For me, I've decided, there's too much variation. So I just go with basically using my palio as a guillotine cutter to cut pretty much almost all the cigars that I have. I do have a couple of punches, and every once in a while I'll use those on some of the Churchill type cigars I have. Every once in a while I'll use them on some of the smaller cigars, but 99% of the time I use the guillotine in my palio. I guess, that's pretty much it. I found that works for me, and I get the right amount of smoke coming through, and that's what I go with.
Well, I'm pretty much the same way. About 95 to 99% of the time, I'm using my scissors, and the only time I don't use them is if for whatever reason I haven't transferred them from one pair of pants to the next, in which case, the polio is always here, and I'll just use the polio. If for some reason I'm out and about and I don't have either cutter on me, I use a plug cutter, but there isn't much variation from the scissors. Now, in terms of the rotating your cigars, I'm pretty bad at it. I'm very, very particular about where the cigars are located in my humidor because I always like to just open a lid and know exactly where I'm going for a particular cigar. Now, the only form of rotation that I do is I've got all these boxes in my cooler, and as they begin to empty, I'll begin transferring cigars that are in, say, like Ziploc bags, and I'll begin transferring them from the bag into the box. And really, that's the only rotation I do. I keep oust fans on cycles inside my coolers, so I get air circulation, but I don't worry about moving the cigar from, say, the bottom of the humidor to the top. And I really haven't noticed any ill effects from not doing that. So I guess transferring, from bags to boxes with the fan going and all that other stuff really isn't causing a problem. It's working out quite well for me. As far as the smoking ban is concerned, there isn't one where I'm at. As far as I know, there is some sort of ban in Philadelphia, but I don't think it affects cigar bars or cigar shops. So that's a huge plus. For me, in this area, if they enacted a smoking ban and they said I couldn't smoke in a cigar shop, it would suck. I don't spend a whole lot of time in the cigar shops, but once a week. Every Friday, I'm at my local cigar shop, Kensington Tobacconist, and I hang out for 2, maybe 3 hours, puffing away on cigars, shooting the breeze with the guys. And if I couldn't do that, I'd really miss it. It's one of the things that I really like about my week. I like getting off of work early on Friday, heading to the cigar shop, hanging out, coming home, and then, getting into the rest of my day. But majority of the time I'm smoking here in my house, so, it would hurt if there was a smoking ban, but it really wouldn't kill me. It's not saying that I would like, or I would not mind a smoking ban. I certainly would. I hate the idea of a smoking ban. So, anyway, that's just the way it goes. I spend a lot of time at home puffing away on cigars here.
Well, living here in North Carolina, we're pretty much right in the heart of the tobacco belt, if you will. So those type of things really, the bans, et cetera, are probably going to take a longer time to work down to our area. Eventually, I'm sure we're going to have to deal with it a little bit more than the people in different parts of the country. But, I'd hate it just as much as the next guy. I mean, I've met a lot of people, some really good friends at the local place I go to, Charlie's Tobacco. And like you had said, Brian and Walt, I mean, it's a really a cool part of my week. And we meet every Monday at just about 5:30, and we hang out there for a couple hours until they close the shop. And it's one of those parts of the week that I just get to unwind and chill out and relax and not have to worry about pretty much anything except, shooting the breeze. And yeah, I would find it difficult. I mean, would it be the end of the world? No, but it really would take a chunk out of my happiness for the week. I do most of the smoking of cigars that I have out in my at the end of my garage, sitting on a leather couch that sort of faces out, and that's fun. And every once in a while, one of my buddies will come over and we'll hang out. But yeah, the cigar shop is pretty much the only place that I would go that I get to hang with people, and interact. So luckily, nothing has happened yet. The normal cigarette smoking bans at restaurants, etc. But I don't have to worry about smoking cigarettes, so I'm not worried about that. Yeah, it's not something I've had to deal with, but I'm sure in the long run, eventually something will happen.
One of the things that I've come to be very fond of about going to the cigar shop is I'm going there to smoke cigars, but the cigars are secondary. I really look forward to just talking with the guys, and there's such a variation in age there. You know, there's me in my mid-20s. You know, there's guys in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and the variation of discussion is great. I mean, there's some things that I talk about that the older gentlemen that go there just wouldn't really pay any attention to, and the same goes for them. You know, they'll start talking about things that I've never thought of, and you know, it's just a great conversation. I always look forward to it. And I think that's what I would miss the most. If I don't get to the cigar shop one week, I don't think to myself, wow, you know, I missed out on having this cigar. What pops into my mind is, well, what did I miss this week? You know, I wonder what came up. You know, who's doing what? You know, anyone going away? You know, what's going on? Because you end up, you know, making this bond with these guys, and it's just a great time. And that's my main focus on going to the cigar shop is hanging out and talking to the guys. And you know, cigars are second, but you know, they're just natural in that situation. It would really upset me if I couldn't do that on a Friday, because you know, like I said before, I really enjoy that. It's one of the more fun things that I do during the week. You know, aside from working all day and then doing stuff around the house. So being able to go to the cigar shop and just kind of have that camaraderie, it's great. Well, that brings us along to our second production break. So sit back, relax, we'll be right back.
Segment 3 here. It's sponsored by Cigar Live. www.cigarlive.com. It's got a special place in my heart. I'm one of the moderators there. So one of the cool things about this site is that I think it's got something for everybody. So if you haven't checked it out before and you like to smoke cigars and like to talk about them, hop on over there and meet the people there. I think it's a good bunch of people. All right. Question 9. It's from NJ from the contact form. It says, what are the quote-unquote best sticks to compare mild, medium, and full-body strengths, and how much do they cost? Walt, that's a loaded question for you. Why don't I just sort of segue over to you, Walt, on that one?
All right, well, I didn't really give much thought to this until right now, so bear with me. Mild cigar. My choice for a really nice mild cigar would be the Grand Habano No. 1 Connecticut in Rothschild size. I prefer that cigar over the larger one. It's one of two that my local shop carries. For whatever reason, I think it's either a Toro or a Churchill or somewhere in between. You got to smoke like heck of the cigar before the flavor really comes into its own. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But that would be my pick for a mild cigar. In the local shop, I think I pay about $3.50 for a Rothschild. My best medium-bodied cigar would be the Oliva Serie G Maduro, because I rant and rave about this cigar all the time, about how much I like it. Again, this is a sub $4 cigar. I buy the Bellicoso in the Maduro. I just think it's got really nice flavor. I love smoking these things in the afternoon. You know, around noon, 1, maybe 2 o'clock. I think it's just a great cigar. And my pick for the most full-bodied cigar would be, I had something else written down, but I'm going to change my answer. And that is going to be the El Cobre by Oliva. My first answer was going to be the La Flor, the triple Ligero. But I'm going to switch to the El Cobre just because it's an absolute stink pot, and it's got a whole lot of body. And they run $100 for a bundle of, I don't know whether it's 20 or 25. They're $4 or $5 a cigar. They're only available online, so maybe the La Flor would be the better answer because they're a lot more readily available. But that's my take on the mild, medium, and full. What about you, Brian? What do you think as far as categorizing the cigars, and what would your pick be?
That's a tough one. Let's see. Without really giving any thought to the price, partly because I don't know. I'm really bad with remembering the prices of them. I mean, I don't go out there, throwing $100 bills around, but when I'm picking them. But when I get back, I don't remember what they cost. I used to label them, but I haven't done that in a while. We were talking about the earlier. I forget what it was about, but it was the Rocky Patel Edge Light, and that seems like I know what it was. It was somebody had written a guest review about it, and that's actually I've smoked a few of those, and I think those are pretty good. I think that's a $5-6 a stick, something like that. I guess I don't really recall off the top of my head. Medium, I would say right now I'm gonna have to go. With the Aragonese Maduro, though that's sometimes a little tricky to find. That kind of trends towards medium to full, I suppose. But I'm thinking it's more, in my opinion, it's kind of more safely in the medium range. Let me think here. I was also thinking about the Upman cabinet selection that I reviewed a while back, and that one's kind of light to begin with, and hits for medium, and it's got a bunch of great flavor to it, and that's around $10 a stick. But I like that cigar a lot. I've got a few of those on hand. In terms of full bodied, I was kind of thinking myself the Oliva Serie V, but again that's kind of problematic because they got that 94 rating in CA, so everybody's running around buying them all up, so they're kind of hard to track down right now. Let's see. An alternative to that, in the past I have enjoyed the Gran Habano Corojo No. 5, and I don't know that it's necessarily just a big powerhouse of a cigar or anything like that. It's pretty full, and that's a reasonably priced stick. Let's see, that's all that's coming to mind right now. Maybe like a Partagas Black or something like that. That's another alternative, something that would be probably pretty easy to find, and it's definitely going to be the full range. What do you think, Chris? Did I steal all of your choices?
You guys picked a bunch of cigars that I would have thought of off the top of my head as well. So I'm trying to come up with a couple here. For mild smoke, I thought of something that's a newer cigar, and it's something that one of the guys on the site, actually a moderator, John Ryder, on Cigar Live, came up with and did a review of. It's a new cigar called Ted's Made by Hand, and it's a Connecticut wrap cigar. Not exactly sure of the filler, but it's a really nice mild smoke. A lot of smoke, nice and creamy tasting. So it's a pretty good flag bearer, if you will, for mild cigars. Medium, one of the medium smokes that I like to have at Charlie's Tobacco when I head in there is the Rocky Patel Nordic. It's a good transition from something that's more mild to something that's definitely more of a fuller-bodied cigar. It's got a lot of flavor, but it's definitely got a lot of that creaminess to it. The first part of it's a little bit of spicy in there, so it sort of leads in from the spice and then sort of mellows out towards the middle and the last third. It's a good medium bodied smoke. And if I had to pick one off the top of my head for a full body, there's so many that come into my head, but a few weeks ago I had an Ashton VSG, and that to me sort of encapsulates, what a full bodied smoke should be about. It's got a nice bit of punch to it, but the flavor is not lacking at all. It's a bit expensive. It's over the $10 range, or around the $10 to $12 range. But if you're going to get a cigar, I think that's got a lot of flavor, a lot of body, and if you're willing to spend the cash, that's the one that I would go ahead and say every time. Hey, you want a full body cigar? You want something you're going to like? That would off the top of my head, that's what I would say. So there's 3. I mean, there's so many more that I could probably think of, but being put on the spot, I don't really have any more. After you guys sort of plumbed the depths there for all the other ones that were in my head.
Good call on the VSG. I was just thinking when you said that maybe the San Cristobal or one of Pepin's lines might be a good one in here to try out, to add to the mix. Do you have any other ideas, Walt? Anything else come to you while we were talking?
The only one that kind of pops into my mind, in addition to the ones I listed, was the Don Pepin Garcia Cuban Classic for a full-bodied cigar. I think they're potent, they're crisp, and they're complex. And, the sizes vary in price quite a bit. I like the Perlas. They're 1952s. They're 40 by 4, and they run $4 a piece. So, affordable smoke. I really enjoy them. I think it's a good full-bodied cigar. Just like the others that were mentioned. But MJ, I hope we gave you at least 9 cigars that you can go out and look for in the very near future. And that leads us to question 10, which is our 10th and final question for the evening. This one comes in from Jonathan via email, and he says, first off, great site. I really enjoy the non-pretentious take on the hobby. I have been smoking cigars for about 4 months. I have 3 humidors, all of them measure humidity in the 70 to 73 range. I currently have about 150 cigars in boxes in the humidor recently. I'm sorry, I read that a little wrong, a little fast. Period after humidor. Then recently I've noticed a lot of my cigars splitting as I smoke. Some develop a bulge before splitting, while others are splitting as they smoke. Nothing has become unmanageable or unsmokable, but aesthetically it is quite concerning. I love to sit on the porch and smoke a cigar, paying attention to the thick smoke and burn of the cigar. The part of my enjoyment is suffering due to the splitting. Any ideas on what might be the cause? Thanks again for the site. I will keep coming back. So, Brian, why don't you start us off? What do you think the problem could be that's leading to the splitting?
Well, to address the first part, clearly I'm not doing my job if you think we're unpretentious, because I love to age my cigars with fine currency. I mean, that's what I was telling the guys during the production break. I mean, yeah, I think of my cigars as an accessory to my Rolex, which I forgot to put on, but, okay, oh well. Okay, I was thinking, I read this, and I was thinking, you said that you're keeping your humidity in the 70 to 73 range, and I'm thinking that it's possible, a couple of things is possible. It could be that your hygrometer it needs calibration, and it's actually reading low, and you've got over humidified sticks. And because what it sounds like to me is the tobacco is a little on the wet side, and it's it swells with the humidity, and it swells even more as it gets hot. So it will cause splitting. It also could be just occurs to me that some Cameroon wrappers, or a lot of Cameroon wrappers, are rather delicate. You didn't say if you were smoking those, but I've noticed in a lot of those that I've smoked that they will tend to crack, and frequently toward in the final third for me. But I'm thinking, check out the hygrometer. I would say change your humidification system, maybe kick it down a notch, try to aim maybe for like 68 to 70 or 65 even to an extreme. Or you do what some other people were talking about in I believe a previous Your Questions, My Answers segment. They were talking about dry boxing their cigars, or just kind of processing the cigars into a lower humidity environment before you smoke them to release that, whether that's just leaving it sit on the counter for a little while, 20, 30 minutes to an hour or something, or if you literally are putting those into a box that has no humidification system in it, so the box absorbs some of the humidity. That's what just comes to mind. What do you think, Chris? Do you have any other ideas?
Well, yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. Basically, you know, I'd read this question before, and he talked specifically about splitting and some cigars bulging, and there's only one real cause of that, and that's just too much water in the cigar. The minute, you know, you light up a cigar, it's really a pretty intense heat, and when you start pulling that heat towards the water, it expands the leaves, and there's really, you know, nothing you can do about it once you start. So yeah, it sounds to me like a classic case of over-humidified cigars. Now, you know, a lot of times that can happen in smaller humidors where you've got a source that's directly like in the lid, like whatever you use for humidification, whether it's, you know, the green foam stuff that's in a black canister or beads or whatever. If it's, you know, cigars are right next to that humidification and they haven't been rotated and it's too high, then guaranteed your cigars, especially in the top layer of those cigars in the humidor, they're going to get more humidity and they're going to retain it. So the minute you light up that cigar, it's going to cause it to crack and bulge, or vice versa, bulge and crack. Yeah, what you need to do is, I think what Brian said, is think about perhaps easing those cigars into a drier environment, whether it be a Tupperware or another humidor that you don't either have humidification in, at least for a period of, you know, like you said, a couple hours to maybe even a day, to let, you know, some of that humidity sort of ease out of cigars. And then think about getting your humidor recalibrated, your hygrometers recalibrated. Make sure there's a couple places you can look. If you look on Cigar Live, or if you look on the web and just do a quick search for salt test, you may want to salt test those hygrometers. I know you did say that you have a couple of humidors that are in the 70 to 73% range. That may be too high for wherever you are. I don't know what your altitude is, etc. That may play a factor. But yeah, you're definitely getting too much water in the cigars, and that's going to be a problem.
Yeah, to stay on line right with you guys, I think that humidity would be the first place that I would look. And the signs would be just as described. You know, if you're getting too much humidity in the foot of the cigar, which may be exposed if you don't have them in cellophane, that's going to be the direct path. You know, it's the most open. It's going to act like a sponge and pull the moisture in, and it can cause the cigars to swell. And it'll happen even more. You know, just as you had mentioned, Chris, if the hydration source is really close to the cigar, it's going to pull that in rapidly at the foot, and you know, you'll get some swelling and some cracking. And then when you light the cigar, you know, it'll just swell some more, and sometimes it'll pop and just keep on going. The other thing could be where you're smoking. If you're in a very humid place such as Florida, you know, in the summertime, and you're outside smoking cigars and they pop and crack, a lot of it could be just because, you know, the ambient humidity outside is just too high, and you're pulling all that moisture in your cigar as you're puffing on it, which could again lead to cracking and splitting. But I think it may be a humidity issue. The only other thing I could think of is if all your cigars are naked in the humidor, and you're maybe a little rough with the humidor, so the cigars are possibly banging against the Spanish cedar or banging into the lining or tray or whatever it may be, you may be developing a little bit of a crack at the foot, and then it's just getting worse as you smoke. A friend of mine does that. He's got a lot of his cigars that aren't in cellophane, and what happens is they get bumped around in the humidor. So before you even light them, you'll see that the foot's a little damaged. There's some small cracks. And a lot of times you'll see that in cigar shops where they have naked cigars and they're handled a lot by the customers. You know, they pick them up, look at them, drop them back in the box. You know, the foot may get, you know, dinged up a little bit. So that could possibly be an issue where you've already started something at the foot by being a little rough with it, and then it's just getting worse from there. You could try toasting your cigars a little bit differently. I know I don't do a very good job of it on the videos, but if you hold the flame further away from the foot of the cigar and very slowly toast it, I think you'll be less likely to split the foot, and that's one way to try to alleviate the problem. But the part that sticks out most in my mind is the humidity issue. You may want to try to drop that a little bit, maybe 68 to 70%, as Brian had mentioned. But then again, that may not be the problem. Manufacturers such as Oliva will recommend their cigars, especially their Maduros, be stored, at a higher humidity level, in excess of 73%. So, I don't know. It all depends on your cigar, how it's being treated, how you're lighting it. All those can play a factor. And when you add all those things up with a little extra humidity, there's definitely a chance of them popping and cracking and doing all kinds of bad things. So, unfortunately, we can't give you an absolute answer, but I think collectively we think it may be a humidity issue, and that's one of the first things you should look into. I think maybe your hygrometer might be, or not your, I think your hygrometer may be off a little bit, and you're actually up in the mid to high 70s when in actuality your hygrometer is reading low in the 70 to 73% range. But that's just my take on the situation.
I would be really curious to hear what he's smoking, because I've been victim to the Cinco Vegas A exploding cigar, and that's unsafe at any temperature or humidity. That thing, I was smoking one of those, and I'm not the only person that's had this happen, where I was smoking it about halfway through it. It sounded like somebody, broke a tree in half, and the thing just exploded, and a giant crevice down the center of it. And it was a bit surprising. I think it scared everybody. I was in the car, and actually my wife was taking, doing some driving lesson type of things, and I think she nearly crashed into a phone pole when that happened. So you gotta watch out. You gotta watch out for some of those Cinco Vegases. I know I'm not the only one that had that. Coincidentally, that did happen during the summer, and I think it was in some direct sunlight for a little while before I lit it. Not too long. It was on the dashboard for maybe a couple of minutes, but anyway, yeah, I'm curious what you're smoking, just because that can be a factor.
Well, Jonathan, I hope we helped you with that situation, and that's it as far as the questions go. So, Chris, what have you been smoking lately? It's been a little while since we talked. Smoke anything new and exciting, or pick up anything interesting?
The only new stick was the one I mentioned before, which was the Ted's Made by Hand, and there was an offer that some of the guys with that company had a free cigar contest, so I got one of those and smoked it. And for a mild cigar, it was a really, really tasty cigar. So that was new. I've been smoking a bunch of Fuente Sun-Grown Chateaus. And I love sun-grown wrapper, and the Fuente Sun-Growns have been really kind of good for me. I got a bomb with a series of Tatuaje Havana 6 in one of each vitola, and I sort of spread those out. Those are really, really good cigar. A nice medium full type cigar. A lot of smoke, a lot of flavor. And I've also gotten, there's one shop not too far from here that had some Illusions, and got a bunch of the Illusion CG4s and some of the smaller Petite Coronas, which were the 68s. And God, I just absolutely love those. I can't really say enough about them. And so those, and again, a lot of Rocky Patel Edges. Those are my go-to. It's not really new and exciting, but it's very, very tasty cigar. Trying to think. Some of the J. Fuegos, which I've mentioned before as well, the J. Fuego Corojo, #1. So that's pretty much been what I've been smoking lately. It's maybe not as all over the board as some of you guys have smoked, but that's what I'm into right now.
Well, it sounds like you've had a little more progress than I have. I set a New Year's resolution to try a couple new cigars a month, and I failed miserably. I haven't been able to get to the cigar shop as frequently as I would have liked, and I'm just going through what I already have. And I've smoked a couple of cigars that were new to me. One being this Rocky Patel Edge Sumatra. I really like it. I'm looking forward to doing the review. But, I haven't really had anything over the top. You know what? I had, this month I had a Top Shelf Signature Select, which is a house brand for Top Shelf cigars. It's a small cigar shop down in Skip Pack. and it's produced by Tropical Tobacco for Jim Cronin, who owns the store. And it was a really good cigar. And from what he tells me, he's going to start wholesaling his particular blend to some of the other cigar shops. And maybe you'll see them a little more often. I really liked his blue label. I had that a while back. I enjoyed the black label, and he's got a green label, which is blended by Don Pepin Garcia, which I'll review at some point later. But that whole house blend thing is fascinating. I really like those cigars. Right back before Christmas, I had another house blend from the local cigar shop that I go to on Fridays. He's looking to get a house blend done by Rocky Patel, and I'll be blunt, it's the best Rocky Patel cigar I've ever had. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this develops. Tomorrow's Friday. I'm actually going to go in and talk to Kurt a little bit and see if the ball's still rolling on that and when he's going to be picking up that cigar, because it was really good. What about you, Brian? You smoke anything aside from Arganese over the last couple of days, weeks?
You stole my thunder. I was going to say that's the perfect one to answer this, because prior to going down there and touring the factory, I had like a 3-pack sampler I smoked, and I only smoked that just before I went down, so I didn't go down there and not know a thing about their cigars, like a complete idiot, So all of that's fairly new to me. The one I just reviewed, the Super Secret coming out soon blend, the CL to the third power, that was a great smoke. That's new. That's going to be new sometime in the next 6 months or so, I guess. I'm not sure, but yeah, that was a fantastic cigar. Let me think. I'm trying to remember what else I've been hitting the Arganese pretty hard since I've been back. I brought back a few boxes, had a pretty good deal on them. So I mean, every morning it's been an Arganese Maduro this entire week. So I might as well do it again tomorrow. Keep the trend. Yeah, I think that's about it. Nothing really comes to mind. Off the top of my head, I'm sure as soon as we're done with this, I'm going to say, oh yeah, there was that one that I was, that's all I've got.
Yeah, when that super secret cigar was pretty interesting. I'll let you know when the cease and desist letter comes in for pulling that review. But it sounds great. I've smoked quite a few of the Arganese cigars lately, mostly the Maduro Robusto and the Nicaragua Presidente, and I really like them both. I've had the Barber Pole, the Dos Capas, a little while back, and it was a really good cigar as well. So I'm hoping to see them pop up in the cigar shops so that I can start getting them. I know right now they're kind of hard to come by because the company's small and and they're just kind of generating some steam now, but yeah, I like those cigars. I would have loved to have gone on that trip, but timing and cash flow and all that stuff just didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean it was a pretty good deal, but yeah, timing was kind of tough. It was a little expensive because we didn't have a lot of prior warning. Honestly, I wasn't sure if I'd be able to go, and things worked out. I'm really surprised that Arganese isn't in more places. I mean, it is pretty new, and it's possible that some people are waiting a little bit to see how the market reacts, how they review, and if they're able to deliver the cigars people order. But everybody, I haven't heard anybody say anything bad about them. I've heard people complain about the Rads, a little racy, a little funny, but. That's if you get a chance to meet Gene, I think you'll understand. Now, in terms of pulling the review, we had a running joke down there about sleeping with the fishes or whatnot, or horse heads in the bed. So I may find stallion parts in my bed at some point, and I'll know that I have to take that review down. But he didn't specifically say I couldn't do it. That's what I'm going on. So I got a little bit of deniability. There was no mention that. And he had them out there for everybody to smoke, so clearly he wanted people to, give their opinions. So we'll see. Yeah, I mean, I may have to do a lot of favors for him in the future. I don't know, you know. Yeah, but it's a good cigar. I gave it a good review, so I can't see he's going to be that angry. Now, if I completely trashed it, then yeah, I might have been kissing somebody's brass knuckles or something. Then, yeah.
Well, that pretty much wraps up the show for the most part. I really appreciate the voicemails that we got this show. Keep them coming. Again, I'll be giving away an R&D sampler pack until I run out of the cigars, and then at which point I'll start giving away my 601 Oscuros. So, and the winner of the R&D sampler pack, I'm like in the dark ages. I haven't done this, whole algorithm thing to pull a random number for entries, so I actually have to write them down and throw them in a little jar and mix them up and pull them. But the winner of the R&D sampler pack this time around, it goes to the person with an unknown name. I have your phone number written down, so shoot me an email. Give me the phone number that you said in your voicemail, which I cut out, and I'll get your R&D sampler on the way. And this week's question, again, we're doing, this is a little confusing, but we're going to be giving away a 5-pack of cigars on a raffle system. If you call in with a voicemail, I'll pull your name and randomly, and you'll get an R&D sampler pack, so 5 cigars. Well, 4 R&Ds, 1 extra, and that's how that's going to work. And then we're also going to be picking up this My Question, Your Answers once again, and that will be a monthly drawing. So basically, you call in, give an answer, and I'll throw your name in a hat. If you call in, for 2 shows in a month, I'll throw your name in the hat twice. So if you call in twice, you got, a better chance of winning. And the winner of those will be receiving a Puck 50, or, well, I don't know what, it's probably going to be a Puck 50, but if not, Mark will set that straight. He will be giving away a Puck of Fire a month for the rest of the year. So if you are in need of upgrading your humidification system, now is the time to call in with your voicemail and get a chance to win a Puck of Fire courtesy of cigarmeat.com. And this week's question comes courtesy of Brian, and we're going to put a little twist on it. And Brian says, which cigar manufacturer would you like to party with? Plain and simple. And we have a secret answer. If you guessed, if you say what the manufacturer that Brian said off air, you automatically win. That's just hands down. You automatically win. If no one guesses, I'm going to pull a name randomly. And it's the name Brian said isn't a name you hear very often. It's not the maker of Bolivar or anything like that. But it'll be interesting. And if someone wins, it's going to be hilarious. But anyway, that's the question. Who would you want to party with if you had the opportunity to have a good time with any of the cigar manufacturers out there? And to call in your voicemail, you can do it through Skype for free. Send a voicemail to WWhite72082. Record yourself on MP3 and email it to me at walt@wrmu.com. Or you can call into my voicemail service at 610-572-2636. And anyone, or you can do just as Carlos did, record yourself and send me a WMV file, and we'll play it, just like we did this time. So that about does it for episode 26 of Your Questions, My Answers. So Brian, why don't you take us on out?
And I just want to throw in there, if you do send us a video, please keep your pants on, and I'm talking to you, Donkey Puncher. That's all I'm going to say. All right. I want to thank everybody for watching, and please make sure you continue to send us questions and comments and ideas for discussion. I've noticed that the comments and the questions seem to be coming in more frequently now that the holidays are over, and that's a good sign. And because we love doing this segment, and we're hoping it's helping you out. So go ahead and send those in. And I'd like to also thank Chris CD from Cigar Live for joining us. It's great that he can take some time out to be here with us and sling some BS.
It's my pleasure.
All right, and thanks again. We'll see you next time.